When we squeeze thousands of years into seconds, glaciers spring to life. But time travel also allows us to throw new light on age-old secrets. The ancient Egyptians left some stunning reminders of their wealth and power. But when the sun set on their civilization, they also left a huge mystery behind. A grumpy camel ride can take us back to the heart of it, to the Sphinx and the pyramids at Giza. We can only imagine what these immense monuments would have looked like at the height of the Egyptian Empire. We've always assumed the Sphinx was built at the same time as the pyramids, but maybe it wasn't. The pyramids entombed the dead kings of Egypt. There are good records to show how and when they went up. What's missing is anything about the origins of the Sphinx. No one can even agree on how old it is. There is now a shocking suggestion that this half-man, half-lion wasn't started by the Egyptians at all. But if they didn't build it, who did? 500 kilometers to the south of the Sphinx, the desert is full of natural monuments that might offer some clues. On a fine day, it's hard to imagine how this magical place came to be. It becomes easier when the wind gets up. The wind picks up loose sand and catapults it across the landscape for miles. It's like being in a firing range. Each grain of sand becomes a tiny, stinging missile. A single blowing sand grain doesn't do a thing. But combine it with eons of time, and you have a force that can carve rock itself. Believe it or not, this is how these bizarre rocks were blasted into shape. But when the wind blows from just one direction, the rock gets whittled into something even more distinctive, something remarkably Sphinx-like. Did the force that created this also have a hand in creating the Great Sphinx? In their minds, these tourists are revisiting Egypt's heyday over 3,000 years ago. But if they really want to get to grips with the Sphinx, they need to go back 50,000 years. They'd be transported in front of a single giant rock outcrop, jutting over the desert at Giza. No pyramids to be seen. The wind was already hard at work. Traveling now through thousands of years of fast forward, those tourists might watch the sand grains eating away at the rock, sculpting that distinctive shape. The early Egyptians may just have happened upon this rock and been inspired to add some finishing touches. They gave this rock a name and found it a job, guard duty for the pyramids which were built behind it. They added detail and dazzling paintwork. And they made it part of their culture. For thousands of years, the Sphinx did guard the pyramids of Egypt. But those days are over. The wind is a sculptor that never knows when to stop. This monumental rock is now a shadow of its former self. It needs high maintenance to fight the ravages of time. The modern stonemasons at Giza work year-round to shore it up. But in the end, they are powerless against tiny grains of sand and time. Time travel can show us the big picture. What happens as huge natural forces change the shape of the world around us? Everything can and does change. Take the Sahara Desert. It would cover the United States of America. But even something this big cannot be taken for granted.